Hey, everybody, and welcome to another week of Crunching Your Growth with me, Phil Masiello. And just like every week, we try and bring you exciting and innovative entrepreneurs. Today, we've got a great one. We have Ann Carden, and there isn't anything that she hasn't done. I don't think I would do her justice by trying to read her bio, but she's got more than 4 decades worth of business experience, marketing, sales, management. She's written books. She has a magazine. She also has a podcast. She's got her own business. She coaches. I can't even tell you all the things she's done. She's a powerhouse, but I think she's got a really interesting story and how she started her first business, which was really born out of her financial hardship. So we'll get into that whole story with her. But she's been everywhere and she's done everything. So I think you're going to learn a lot. I think she's got some really interesting stories, some great advice for entrepreneurs, great advice for startup people, and she's an excellent coach. So let's bring her in and say hello. Ann, thanks for being here.
Hello. It's great to be here. Thank you, Phil.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time. I tried, I've read your bio and reread your bio, but I don't think I could do it justice trying to get across all the things that you've done, all the things that you've accomplished, and then what you do today and how you help people. So if you could just sort of give us a little bit of a background on you, what you've done, and let's take it from there.
Sure. I was 13 years in corporate retail management and left that to be a stay-at-home mom and raise my two small children. And it wasn't very long. We realized that my husband's paycheck was not going to cut it. So we hit a real hard time. And I remember there was a pivotal moment. My 4-year-old son needed shoes and we just didn't have the money. And I sat down and cried and just started praying for an answer. And I got one. And that was when my first business started. So it didn't start as a business. I was just going to make some things and take them to a little store and sell them and help my family. And long story short, that turned into a full-blown business that I did globally. I shipped all over the world, was basically running a manufacturing company out of my home, doing handcrafted designer dolls. And and then here we are, 7 businesses in, and I've built 5 total that I've sold, and then I have 2 now. So,
really?
Yeah.
So the first one you were building, you were making handcrafted dolls.
Handcrafted dolls. Yes. So this was way back in the 90s. And the craft industry was really exploding across the country. And, back then we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all the things that we do now. And so there weren't a lot of options. We lived outside of a small town. There just were not a lot of options to work. Even in town, there were, a couple of restaurants and just not any place really to work. And so, but there was a little store that did consignment and craft items were put in that store. And so I made some things, but interesting enough, I made some things and took them in, and the lady was really gracious. And she said, I'll put these in, but they weren't dolls. She said, I don't know if they'll sell, but I'll put them in. So 2 and 3 weeks in, I kept calling. Did anything sell? Did anything sell? And no, not yet. So she said, if you want to come pick them up, I just don't think they're going to move. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now what am I going to do? Because I didn't know what my next thing was going to be to help my family. And went in and I said, tell me what's selling. And she said, these rabbit dolls. At this time, they're like these animal dolls. And I thought, a rabbit doll? I have no idea how to make a rabbit doll, but I'm going to figure it out. So I went and just looked at so many patterns and just borrowed my mom's sewing machine. I didn't even own a sewing machine. And I said, I'm going to figure out a doll. And I designed my own and I made up a couple. And when I took them in, she said, oh my gosh, these are going to sell. Well, long story short, I made dolls for years. And they weren't just rabbit dolls. There was some Noah's Ark fabric that came out, and I did all of these dolls that were around Noah's Ark. And so but they were all signed and numbered. And I would have people all over the world. I remember the day I got an order from Iceland. And that was the way that went international, because we didn't have the internet. I advertised in international magazines, and very expensive marketing, but it worked. And those dolls, a couple of my dolls even ended up on the cover of that international craft magazine, and they were selected. You couldn't buy the cover. So that was a real cool thing that happened. But I'll never forget the day I had a lady from Iceland call and ordered some of my dolls. And she said, I just wait for your next dolls to come out.
Oh, geez.
In the service. And she said, your dolls just give me such comfort, and I just love them, and I have them all over my home. And, it just warmed my heart. So yeah, that was the first business.
That's fantastic. I when you started talking about the dolls, my mother, when I was young, I had two sisters, and my mother got very much into miniatures and doll houses.
Oh,
And yeah, and she got so far into it that she started building her own doll houses. And some she got from kits and things. And then she decided to open up a store in this crafts village outside of the city. We were in New York, and she's outside of the city. And so it was mostly on the weekends, but she sort of did the same thing. She took this passion and this idea, and she started selling, miniatures. And there I was, this little kid putting these doll houses together, painting them, making, doing the brickwork and things. And I mean, it got a little intricate. You were running wires into the house. You could plug in little lights. It's an amazing world. But you're right. That was 80s, 90s. And, but yes, people were into crafts. People were into doing things. They had hobbies. It was before the internet, and it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was a six-figure business for me, a six-figure income for me. And that was 35 years ago, I guess, something like that, 4 years ago. And I would do craft shows on the weekends, and I was also in stores all across the country. So they had craft stores all over the country, and you could again rent space. And so, I was in stores. I mean, every day UPS was coming to my house, and I had other moms in and out stuffing doll parts and cutting for me and doing all of these things. And that was the first one.
That's fantastic. And then where'd you go? And then what happened after you sold that?
Yeah. So I sold my designs. So what was happening is I was seeing the market turn. I had started also doing patterns where people could now make my dolls. And so I was designing patterns. I saw the market changing. A lot of things were coming in from China. They were being imported, and we couldn't even buy the materials in the United States and make the dolls as cheap as you could buy the whole thing going in from China. So I saw that turning. So I went into the pattern side of it. And I just didn't love that. It was just kind of rinse and repeat patterns, and it was money and it was fine, but I didn't love it. So I sold the designs to the pattern company. And then I had gained a lot of weight. That business was fairly sedentary, making dolls all day. And I gained a lot of weight, and I thought, okay, I don't know what my next thing is going to be, but I do know I need to get this weight off, and I need to take better care of myself. So I started eating right and exercising, and I just fell in love with fitness. And I had always been active as a kid. I was a cheerleader. I was in track and played basketball and all of those things. But if for the first time, my weight was out of control and I didn't feel good. And I thought, okay, I have control over this. I don't know what my next step is. Well, through that, I realized there was not a lot of places for people to work out and take care of themselves. And so I went to a back to school barbecue, and I asked all the moms if they wanted to take fitness classes with me at a community hall, and they said yes. And that turned into 2 health clubs, 2 weight loss centers that I was in that industry for 20 years and trained thousands and thousands of people through the years, and helped so many people lose weight, and it just changed lives. Even now, after all these years of being out of that, I still have people that will Ann, will you help me with a nutrition plan? Will you train me? Or, Ann, you changed my life. And so I think I've kind of been a natural born coach. So when I sold all of those businesses, I already had stepped into business coaching before I sold the last 2. And my coaching kind of took off, and I was like, okay, this is my next thing. This is what I want to do. And so I went ahead and sold those other 2 businesses. So now I have my Expert in You marketing and media agency. And then I also have my coaching side of my business.
So what do you do, Expert in You?
Yes. So I have my podcast. I have my magazine. We do some done for you marketing services for people, but then I also coach people on how to really step into the spotlight, how to build revenue, create offers. Really, I would say get to that $1 million with a handful of clients. So I help them build a really high-end business where they're getting clients for, $100,000 or even much more. So working at the higher side of their industry. So coaches, consultants, service entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what is the magazine online, or is the magazine a physical product?
Yeah, it's actually online, and I do have some printed copies, but I typically give those to the people that are featured, and I use them also for some marketing assets. They're not out there like in stores, but you can grab that at expertinyoumagazine.com. You can grab the digital copy, and we're in our second edition. And the person that I had on the cover this time, I was on the cover of the first edition, which felt a little weird, but the person helping me do the magazine is like, it's your launch. You need to be on there and you need to be in it. So, but the person that I actually have on the cover this time was the last person off the plane when it went down in the Hudson, Dave Sanderson.
Is that right?
I don't know if you know Dave. He's a worldwide speaker and he tells his story all over the world. He was the last one. He helped everybody off the plane when it went down in the Hudson. And then I also have in that magazine a female who is a world class record holder. She's a Guinness Book of World Record holder for climbing the 7 second highest peaks in the world.
Yeah.
She's a mountain climber. And so some cool stories in there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Really proud of it.
And when did you start that?
So this is just our second edition. So we launched the first edition right before summer, and then we have the winter edition. It's going to go to 4 times a year, but for these first 2, it was 2 times this year.
That's great.
So, yeah,
that's a lot of work putting together a magazine.
It is. I have a great team, though. They're amazing, but it's just still you have to get the people to be in it and all of that. But it's a lot of fun. But it's I'm building up this media side of my business because it's a brand, and as that grows and builds, and we have a lot of done for you services and things that we do for people too. Like we can write their book for them. We can get them on stages. So there's all these things that we do. That's an agency that I'll probably be able to sell someday too. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Are you, when you wrote a couple of books, are you, do you, when you say done for you and you write their books and get them published, are you talking about self-publishing or through like the KDP and doing it that way, or?
Yeah. So these books that we write for people, we call them expert books, and they're really designed to bring you clients. So if you are a service provider, they're really designed around what your expertise is and your offer, and they're to guide people to you. So they're not a book like you would sit there and read and stories and all of that, but they are filled with gold nuggets, and they're filled with your story and things like that, but they're really designed more for lead generation. And we call them an expert book because they're relevant to what people are doing right now. I've written 3. I'm on my 4th book now, writing those books. And every time I switched sort of my target or what I was selling or what I was doing, I wrote another book, because I wanted it to be completely relevant to where I am right now. And I think that's really important in the market that we're in today. You just have to stay so relevant.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I wrote 3 books, and I have a 4th that I'm finishing. But the first one was when we first started this agency. I was doing a lot of work on Amazon because we started selling on Amazon, building brands on Amazon back in 2006. And so I built the first book on Amazon, but Amazon changes so much. I would have had to update that book every year, and I just let it go. But then I wrote another one on marketing, and I wrote one on entrepreneurship. And then I have this other one that I've been working on, but I self-published them. And I'll tell you, this last one that I'm working on now that I'm almost done with, a publisher came to me, a big one that's pretty well known that does business books. And they came to me and said, we want to do it. Can you give us, a treatment? And I want to see what it's like. And I did. And I thought to myself, when they came back with an offer, I thought to myself, well, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, the upfront money that they were offering, and then all the things that you had to do, it just didn't make sense to me. And I said, well, I don't understand why I would do this with you. I could do it myself. I know how to market the book. I know how to get the book done. I know how to publish it. I know how to get it into every place that sells books, in addition to Amazon. So I think that whole book publishing world is changing, and it's almost becoming pay to play, even for the big publishers, unless you're like, a politician who then writes a book, right? And I think part of it is, when you look at the statistics on books, other than like the big guys, right? The big authors that write series, and they come out with a book, it sells 1 million copies. Or if you're like, an ex-president and you write a book, they really don't know how to market books. They know how to do it with big people. And so they claim, well, that's our risk. Well, your risk is you just don't know how to market books. So I didn't, I'm not big keen on, I don't see the benefit, I guess, of going with a big publisher when you can do it yourself. Right.
Yeah, these are published on Amazon. Of course, you can get printed, you can get printed editions. And if you wanted to get to #1 bestseller on Amazon, we can do that for you too. But they're very different from, again, like a publisher book. And here's one thing. I just did a video around this, actually, how to get $1 million from your business, from your book. And it's not around the book, right? The average book only makes like $10,000 to $15,000 over its lifetime.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't realize that. So I showed, how to do all the back end business from your book, get out there and speak, and then sell coaching or sell some kind of services on the back end, and did that whole video. But people don't realize when they write that book. But it's such a great world too, because again, I'm on my 4th, because I want to write one again that's more around the media and the marketing side, that's relevant to what I'm doing now. And we have that opportunity, and we just never have. But, you can pay to play if you want to be on the New York Times bestseller. I think it's about $250,000 or a little bit more. To get a lot of people don't realize that either, do they?
No. And it's like just like you said, I looked at it when I did the first book as a calling card, because I never planned on building an agency. I had built brands. And then when I sold the last one, I wound up backing into an agency because, one of our partners in there said, we need help doing this and this, because they were a corporation. And and then we got, we were helping them sell on Amazon. They were selling to Amazon, but we were helping them sell on Amazon. We were building their websites, doing their marketing. And I wrote the book because we wanted other clients, which it got me. Right. So I whatever the investment was, $10,000, let's say, or, but you're right. The point was to get $1 million in clients in with the book.
Right.
It wasn't to sell 1 million units of books. Right. And all of my books I do on Audible as well, because there's a lot of people that want to read your book, or, and you can hand them out when you speak, and you can have people go to Amazon and buy them. But I find that we get more plays for the actual book on Audible, even if we offer it to somebody, they'll go to Audible and use it. And you're never going to get paid out. I mean, the way that works as far as payment goes. So if you're writing a book to make $1 million, is never going to happen, or 100,000 is never going to happen. But to use it in your business to build credibility, to make you who you are, absolutely, 100%.
100%. That's really how to use it. It will get you on stages. It opens doors. Your book absolutely opens doors and gets you chosen over other people. It's a definite credibility, authority builder, influence builder. So I think everyone needs to have one if they're serious about building their business.
I agree with you 100%. There was something else you said in there that now I meant to touch on it. Now it'll come back to me. But
speaking of books, one thing that a lot of people are doing now, they're doing these collective books, right? Where there are several authors in a book, and one of the things I talk about, nothing wrong with that. If, you can put author if you've been in one of those, but those are really not credibility builder books. And so
No.
just kind of letting people know that if you're looking for that, because if you think about it, you get picked to be on a stage and they say, oh, so we see you're an author, and you go, well, yeah, I'm in this book with 30 other people. That's not really going to build your credibility. So people need to kind of understand that when they're looking to invest in getting a book done, or how to get published or get that author behind their name. It's important that you have your own book around what you're doing.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys out there doing that from their podcast, right? They create a book they'll take the interviews, the 10 different podcast interviews, and they'll use AI and they'll turn it into a book. And it's more for the podcaster, not for the people in the book, right?
Yeah.
And you can, build it around, oh, I interviewed these 10 entrepreneurs and this is what I found, that type of thing. But it's really about, so if I did it off my shows, it would be my book building credibility for me,
Right.
even though I'm using those other 10 people.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There's ways to monetize everything, isn't there?
Oh yeah. No question about it.
You teach that, I teach that. We could just geek out on that all day, Phil.
Oh, we could absolutely do it. I am very focused though I'm more focused, our agency is more focused on brand building and helping like people with that come up with a product, right? Whether it's a physical product or a SaaS product. We have done some books for people in the past, but it's really difficult to get people to understand, spending money to get to the top of Amazon and be the best seller. And because you're not going to make that money back. And everybody, they look at it from a selling perspective. I need to sell 1,000 books to make the money back. And you go, oh,
right. Yeah. But you can turn your book into a lot of things,
Oh,
turn
yeah.
it into a program, a course. So yeah, so many different things, so many ways to monetize it for sure.
Absolutely. No question about it. But you've had over pretty much 40 years of experience, give or take, let's say.
My age, right?
I didn't want to. I was
I get it. Yeah, we can't do anything about it.
I was going to say, when you started in kindergarten making dolls about 40 years ago.
Yeah. Actually, my first business, funny enough, I was about 8 years old. It wasn't a business, but I was making my own money at about 8 years old. It's so funny. I was selling craft classes in my basement to the neighborhood kids.
That's funny.
Yeah. And then who knew that would be my first business, right? Some kind of a craft type of business. But yeah. So I was always, as a kid, making my own money, sold Girl Scout cookies, but I always learned marketing. I always did marketing and sales even as a kid. So.
Yeah. And I think what I wanted to touch on before was when you were talking about, weight loss and fitness and helping people, because that's sort of that foundation is, because let's face it, everybody wants to feel better about themselves. And one of the best ways you can feel better about yourself is getting into shape physically, right? Because that physically and mentally, it makes you feel better, right?
Yes.
I'm a victim of it because I have a sugar addiction. And so when I'm exercising, when I'm working out, when I'm, doing races and things like that, I'm in great shape, but then I fall back on my bad habits with sugar. And now I'm at the point right now, I'm trying to lose weight because of it. But anyway, there's 100%. Yeah. Well, I just went through Thanksgiving and I didn't eat any sweets. None.
Oh, there you go.
And so I did it before. I did it like 3 years ago, 3-4 years ago, and I lost a ton of weight. And then I did the Baltimore Marathon and some other ones. And then right after that, for some reason, I just fell back off the wagon. People laugh when I tell them that I have a sugar addiction, but I treat it's the same way as any kind of addiction, because my body starts to crave it. And I think, well, I can just have that one cookie. And the next thing you know, I got a pack of Oreos hidden in my desk and I'm like shoving them in my mouth where nobody sees me, but anyway, my point with that was, it's always so many coaches that I know have started out with that type of, I'm going to work on the body and mind. And then it goes into so many other places, which is sort of how you started it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really was. And at the time, I didn't really know it was going to become a business. I was just doing it because I really just wanted to help other moms feel as good as when that other business, things started turning, I kind of found myself in a bit of a depressed state. Not I've been running this for 7 years, going full out, and then all of a sudden, what am I going to do? I'm still living in the same small town. I'm still living where there's not a lot of opportunity, and my kids are in school by now. But I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that there wasn't much around, and I thought I want to help other moms feel this good. If I feel this amazing because it was the first time in my life I had ever been heavy or found myself in that situation, and I didn't like the way I felt. And so when it changed me, I was like, I want to help other people do this, too. And I actually, at the time, because I was running out of a community hall, I also went back I had to order the binders to learn the nutrition and the fitness and all that. Like I had to order I had these huge books and binders that came to my house, and then I had to mail in my test and all of this kind of stuff. We didn't have all the online stuff. And I was running, kind of doing nutrition classes, not classes, but working with clients out of my home. I had set up an office in my home, and because I didn't have space at this community hall, and they were coming, and I was doing meal plans for them and helping them with their weight loss, even before it turned into, a full blown health club. So yeah, it was always something that I did.
I've been doing this show this is my third year, and I've interviewed, once a week for the last 3 years, entrepreneurs, people who have started businesses, sold businesses, scaled businesses. And it's quite common when they sell a business or they exit a business to feel this loss, this depression. And what you were just saying about when after what am I going to do? And, I've done it. The last one, I went into a dark place because I felt like we sold it prematurely and I had unfinished business, but
Mhm.
it's quite common and it's quite a problem for entrepreneurs because no matter how successful they are and no matter how long they've been doing it for, and they want to get out, they want to exit, they get a good deal and they get a great offer and they exit, having the money is only part of it. They
Right.
feel this great loss. And there was a guy that we had on here that actually works with entrepreneurs after they've exited to
Mhm.
help them. And his name is Joel Gandara, and he has a whole business because he built a huge e-commerce business over the years. And then, he knew he wanted to sell it. And when he sold it, he went into a depression, and then
Mhm.
he started exercising like what you were talking about and got himself back into shape physically and mentally. And now he has a whole program for
Mhm.
ex-entrepreneurs who have sold their business. And he's doing a phenomenal job with it. And there's so many
Yeah.
entrepreneurs that didn't realize that was their problem. Like, oh my God, I have this loss and
Uh-huh.
what am I going to do?
It's kind of your identity. I mean, it really, when you pour so much into it as an entrepreneur, it somewhat becomes an identity for you. And yeah, I actually work with a lot of people that have left, and it happens also if people have been in corporate and they've sort of grown up in
Yeah.
corporate, so they've been CEOs, and so I work with people like that. I have a client right now who's a surgeon and a specialist, and she's going into coaching. And so I love to help them build coaching and consulting businesses to leverage all of that knowledge and expertise that they've built up through the years. There's real value there. So he helps them with the e-commerce side, and I help them with uh, sharing their knowledge and monetizing their knowledge and helping other people. So
Yeah. Yeah. But again, you sort of back to where I was, you've been doing this for about 40 years now. What do you think some of the biggest changes that you've seen in, the sales and marketing side or strategies that you've seen happen over the last 40 years?
oh my goodness, where to start? The thing is, the fundamentals are always going to be the same. I When I was even in corporate and retail management, we would do things that we would have events and promotions, right? in those retail stores. And I had to plan a lot of those things through the years. And then also it's a big piece of what I help people do now is create events to bring in clients. And so some of those fundamentals are never going to change. People have to know who you are, and you have to build that influence in the market and really stand out. But I think AI definitely has shifted things. I also think the online world, I mean, I can't even imagine if I would have had what we have today way back when I was building some of those first businesses. I mean, the internet just started kind of coming onto the scene for me. We had a website when I had my two of my businesses that I hadn't sold yet, but then the last two, we were just getting into email marketing. I mean, that's how, that was 14 years ago. It's really still fairly new if you think about it. It's been around forever, but not like it is now, where we have it at our fingertips, where we have these we have these tools and these things that we can use, like what we are doing right here. So that's been a big change, is the online world, the internet, the tools and the resources that we have now that we've never had before. We talked about publishing. That's huge. That's a big game changer. All of those things are marketing, ways to market. When I talked about the magazine, when I had to advertise in the magazine, that was costly.
Oh, yeah.
Marketing was costly back then when you did print. And I used to run full page newspaper ads, and that was all costly. People don't realize what we have today. I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah, no, I agree that I agree that the systems have changed. I think marketing has shifted with this next generation of people. And again, I'm a consumer marketer, so that's how I look at things, right? Because you're looking at it through a different lens than I am. And what I see is that, traditional ads don't work. They don't work anymore.
No, they
And,
don't.
And I see alternative ways to communicate, especially given social media and things like TikTok, where you can generate sales, or a brand can create its connection with a customer, and without pay, but it's still costly because it's effort. You have to think about it. You have to understand what you're doing. We do a lot of connected TV ads, OTT channels, things like that for brands, big, small, doesn't matter. And because the costs have come down, and it's so much more. You want to talk about a big shift. I can't tell you, when I had two of my businesses in skincare and also in shaving, we spent millions of dollars on television ads. And it used to drive me crazy because on traditional TV, because it was so untrackable, and it used to drive me insane. And today, connected TV, it's very trackable and remarketable online. But anyway, I sort of got away from it a bit. But my point with that is, like, we talk to these brands and say, you're creating a traditional commercial here. All you're doing is creating the same commercial you were running 20 years ago. You have to stop. You have to think about who you're going after, because it's not going to work. We're going to run this, and you're going to be disappointed because you're not going to get the clicks. You're not going to get the sales. And here's a better way to approach it. And it's just such a difficult thing to get across. Anybody who's been doing it for, running their business for 15 or 20 years, they think, well, this has always worked, so we have to continue to do it. And then, what ultimately happens is they get a reversal, and then they start thinking, okay, well, we have to change. But
yeah, no, I see it even in the coaching and consulting space. They, like a lot of business coaches, for example, they're so used to doing everything offline, networking and running events and things like that. And a lot of them, even like through the pandemic, a lot of them went away, or they had to go back and get jobs because they weren't leveraging the online world. And so you have to understand what's going to work for your market. But on the sales side of it, consumers are more savvy. People are more savvy. People are also less trusting, right? They're more jaded. And so all of this, that you have to break through all of that. You have to break through all of that noise, and sales now is more consultative, and you sit and you actually have a conversation with the person, and you find out what they need. And it's really about influencing them to buy by showing them showing them that you can help them. And so it's a very different world from the sales side as well.
Oh, absolutely. And even, we've been doing consumer products for, 15 years. Well, even before that. But the real game changer, which if you had asked me 4 years ago, would social selling be a huge business? I would say no, only because all we had at that time was really Facebook and Instagram. And I thought that Meta did a terrible job with the shops. People weren't responding to it. They didn't want you give them their credit card, and there was no trust there. But then all of a sudden, TikTok comes along, and this generation is responding to it. And it's not just young kids. It's, I would say, 40 and below. And it's nothing to do with ads. If you run an ad, they don't pay attention to it. But if you do a really good video explaining your product, or I don't care what your product is. Your product could be coaching. Your product could be, a SaaS product. People respond to it. And what we're finding is that even if they don't check out or buy on TikTok, they buy on Amazon, or they'll buy on your website. It'll drive your entire ecosystem up. And it's just amazing to me. And we're full blown into it for a lot of our clients. And I have a team that does creative, short form creative. If we need anything bigger, we have outside groups that we work with. But, it's just, to me, it's an amazing shift in how we're communicating with buyers today. Because you're right. You said it before. People are jaded. People are not trusting. They're getting bombarded with ads telling them the same thing over and over again. And there's a friend of mine, a woman named Sally Hogshead. If you should look her up one day. She's a phenomenal person, and she's a marketer, and she's also a coach, and she has this very simple quadrant, four quadrant of how to think about your business. You're either going to be different, you're going to be better, you could be better and different, but if you're none of those, then you're lost.
You're dead in the water, right?
Yeah, you're dead in the water. And when you start thinking about it, and we use it in our business when we interview new potential clients, it's tell us how you're different, or tell us how you're better. And if you can't express it, we can't do business with you, because there's nothing to work with. Then you're just a seller to us, and then we don't work with sellers. It's too difficult. Then you're price driven. So
yes. Yeah. And we know being price driven is like a fast road to the bottom, right?
Oh, that's spiral. That's spiral.
Yes.
That's why we don't work with sellers, because that mentality doesn't work for us. You have to be a brand builder. You have to have something that's different, something unique, or something that's better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Going back when I was thinking about my fitness business, one of my very first, I call it my first $1 million offer, I put together the nutrition and like a 30-day workout plan where they came in every morning at 5, Monday through Friday for 30 days. And so it was this whole and I called it Body Blast, and it built this entire brand. This whole brand just blew up, and we would have a waiting list for that program, and it took on a whole life of its own. And it was really responsible for me being able to continue to expand, because they were higher fees. It was almost 4 times what my normal fitness fees were. And so that's where I sort of learned the premium model. Was in that very first, but even back then I had to build a brand around that. And that was something that I learned as well, is, your brand has to help you stand out. It has to be different. And that's how you have to play that game these days, or you just get lost in the shuffle.
Well, if you have nothing unique to say, then people don't they just tune out. Okay, I'm a coach. What do you coach? Well, I coach business. Well, what's your experience? I don't really have any. Like, okay.
Well, there's a lot of those.
I know.
FYI, there are a lot of those. I kind of talk about that. Yeah, maybe don't hire a business coach that's never had a business. Or
I know.
It's scary. Yeah.
There are a lot of them.
Yes, there are. Yeah.
And they think they can just get out there on the circuit and start getting clients, and it's maybe you can get 1 or 2, but they're not going to stick with you. The whole point is, to trade up. You want to be on that top tier. You want to be. It's always better to be on the luxury side of something. right?
Mhm.
Whether it's a product or a service. You know?
Always. Yeah, you're kind of economy recession proof when you do that. One thing that kind of drives me crazy in the industry too is when people only know how to do one thing and they're selling that all day long and they know how to do one thing. And the problem with that, they might have a good tactic, a good marketing tactic or something that works. The problem with not having that depth of experience like you have, like I have, is it's not a fit for everybody. And if you don't have that depth of knowledge or experience, then you're taking on clients that you should never be taking on, that are never going to get the results because your thing is not good, is not right for them. And that's one thing that has just made me crazy in the coaching and consulting space. And I think it's why a lot of people are very jaded, because they bought into those kind of programs. I did it as well when I came online. I thought these people know what they're doing online. And I bought into a lot of things, and they would convince me, yeah, your clients are here. Yes, you can reach them on Facebook. And yet I couldn't reach them on Facebook. It wasn't the place where they were. And that was when I was kind of going after small business owners. So yeah, that's been a problem too.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of, and you see it, unfortunately. I don't like to spend a lot of time on social media, but I have to because of the work that we do. And
Yes.
it makes me insane to watch these ads that just feed off the unknowledgeable about I
Mhm.
can 10x your business and I can 10x your sales. I can, and I sit there going, sometimes I'll comment in there and go, think about it logically. This person's telling you they can 10x your sales. They don't know anything about your business yet. They don't know even
Right.
what the base is. So you're telling me that if I have $1 million business, you can make me a $10 million business.
Mhm.
It's easy to 10x something if you go from 100 to 1,000, but
Right.
and
Right.
but there's so many false claims out there, and that's why people are jaded.
Mhm. Yeah, I call them one trick ponies.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't sound very nice, I think, but it really does make me crazy, because I think, and when I first came into the online world and kind of started my coaching business, I was taught that strategy. Oh, sell something for 90 days, put this together for 90 days and sell that. And it was so frustrating to me, because what I would do is help these people. They would get some great results in 90 days. And then I didn't have anything to sell them on the back end. I should have known, right? But I didn't. It was, the coaching space was different. And so I would watch them go away, and I'd watch, 4 or 5 or 6 months down the road, they were doing something completely different, chasing the next shiny object and the next thing. And I finally just took a step back and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm either going to help people the way I know I can help them and help them build businesses, or I'm getting out of this, because it wasn't fulfilling. And I didn't feel like it was an integrity to just sell people one thing and then, send them on their way. So I don't work like that anymore. If they need one thing, that's fine. But if they need more than that, I have to stay in integrity and say, that's not enough. I mean, you're just piecemealing your business together. And that is not the smartest thing or the most cost effective thing to do.
yeah. You and I think alike, because we, even though we're a marketing agency, right? We're a full service agency, and we also have to get involved with sort of guiding the decision makers, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
and we try to explain to them, these are the building blocks. This is what you want to do to help build your brand. I don't care if you're a $10 million brand trying to get to 20, if you're 50 trying to get to 100. These are the things you have to do. And you can't just say one thing. Oh, I just want to run ads. I said,
Right.
if you just run ads, you're just going to go broke in a year
Mhm.
or 2 years, because
Yeah.
you can't do it that way. You have all these different pieces. And we're very, very, I've learned to be very particular about the clients we take on, because
Mhm.
in the beginning we were taking on clients that we probably shouldn't have. And
You
we
had to
probably,
convince them they needed this, right?
right. And
Yeah.
now we take on, like I said, we are the interview process in the beginning is more us interviewing them than them saying, well, what can you do? It's more of us saying, well, please tell me about the business. Where are you trying to get to? And this and that. And then literally after about an hour on a call, I'll say, I don't think we're right for you. We can't really help you because of this, and this. But we do a lot of, when we do decide to take on a client, we do a lot of research beforehand, and we'll present them and say, here's where I know we can get you. We can get you from here to here if we do these things. So don't think you're going to get here if you just want to do 5 of these 10 things. If you do want to do 5 of these 10 things, you're not going to get there. So if we have an agreement on this, we can help you. And that's sort of our approach now.
And it's so smart, and it's so in integrity as well, because, and I'm very much like you, clients, when they're prospects, when they get on a call with me, they think they're talking to me about my services, and it actually is the opposite. I'm thinking, can I help this person? Are they somebody I want to work with? Because my reputation is important. The results that I get people are important, just like I know it is for you. And so I'm putting my business on the line with the clients that I take on. And nothing's worse than having to convince people that what you're saying is what they need, right? And they're not believing you, or they don't. It's like, I get people that come to me and they're like, well, I want to build a membership site. I'm like, you want to sell something for $97. You've been a CEO for a corporation for 40 years and you want to build a $97 membership site. There's better ways to build a business. Those are great scale strategies, but if they're just dead set on that, that's not my approach.
Right.
My approach is top down. We're going to sell high, and then you can use that to scale when you've made $1 million or beyond, and you've got the money to throw at it, because it's a lot of traffic, a lot of admin work, and all those things. So, but if they're just dead set on that, I'm like, I'm not your person, right? So we have to know.
Yeah, we generally, I always tell somebody, if we really think we can help somebody, but they're sort of the same way, right? They're thinking differently, and we let them go. I'll always say to my folks, I say, don't worry, they'll be back in 6 months, because they're going to get another agency, and the other agency is going to tell them, yeah, we can do that. And they're going to realize they can't, and they're going to go back and reread what we put together. And then they're going to come back to us, and then we'll say, look, before we move forward, we're going to get a commitment on these 10 things. This is what's going to get your business. If we're not, I'm not going to waste my time. But because you're 100% right. It's our reputation as well. And,
and how many marketers, pop up? I mean, I do marketing. I don't like to call myself a marketer, but I have a marketing and media agency. But how many marketing people pop up? And again, they know one thing and they sell that over and over again. They really, and it's like, just bring them in the front door, herd them through, bring them in the front door. They're losing them out the back door as fast as they're coming in the front, if not faster. But they don't care. It's all a volume game. It's all just, and I think that breaks down trust with marketers. And so, the fact that you're talking about how you do things the way I choose to do business, we're rare. And the other thing too is, if they don't really understand strategy, or they don't ask you, what's your strategy, or that's never brought up, you need to run, because they really don't know what they're doing.
No. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. But we have about 5 more minutes. So we've got but here comes the big question. Like, what advice would you give to business owners that are looking to position themselves as thought leaders or authorities in their industry? Because this is really more of your focal, right? Your focus.
Yes. Yeah. You really do have to play a bigger game and think about where your people are, but you have to build up your online assets. You have to, especially if you're going to be a thought leader, people are going to Google you. If you want to go speak on a stage, that event planner the first thing they're going to do, they're not going to look at your speaker reel. They're going to Google, what has this person done? Has this person done anything? And we're just in a different world. And people are, event planners and people like that, they're lazy, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's like, what's the easy path, right? Let me just check this person out really, really fast. And so you have to realize that's how people are doing things these days. It's at their fingertips. And so you have to make it so easy for people to see that you're influential, that you're doing big things, that you're playing a bigger game, and you have to rise above the noise. And that means, I talk about stepping into the expert spotlight, have that book, be seen, do podcasts, have a TV show, do things that build your influence, have content that leads people to your expertise and to your services. All of that it's not optional anymore. It's a
No,
necessity. It's not optional.
you're 100% right. And yeah, Google is a wonderful thing. I just wrote a post on LinkedIn yesterday about integrity. And the reason I did it was because I have people contacting me all the time to be on the show. And we're very clear about entrepreneurship, and you have to have some sort of, business focus. You have to have scaled businesses, whatever. And this young person claimed that they had built $8 million businesses before they were 29 years old. And I said, boy, that's an achievement. So I Googled them. And there's nothing there, absolutely nothing. And then I'm like, dude, so I said, let's get on a call. And I got on a call and I said, show me the businesses. Show me what you did. Show me your LinkedIn. Show me anything that says this is what I did. And they couldn't. And the whole thing was phony because what I did was, I'm a very good internet sleuth. And I can tell you where you live. I can tell you how much you paid for your house. I can tell you what your phone bill is. I can tell you more about you than you think is out there. And I said, you live at home with your mom in a $500,000 house in Milwaukee. You drive a 6-year-old car, and you're going to tell me that you built $8 million businesses. And so then he's pleading with me. After we got off, he sends me this email pleading with me because he's on a system that you can get on podcasts and things. And I sent a message saying this guy needs to get off here. He's a phony. It's fraud. And he's pleading with me not to damage, the things that he's already got going on. I said, you'd be better off spending your time building a business. Then you got some credibility, but you have no credibility. And it occurred to me that, there's a lot of people out there that think I just get on podcasts. I just do these things. I write a book and I'm going to be, this influencer, but you've got to actually accomplish something in your life.
Right. Yes. Yeah, there is that. You do have to actually be an expert in something, but going back to that, most people have done something in their life, right? That they've had an accomplishment. You may have to think about it. Maybe you were just the best mom in the neighborhood. I don't know.
Yeah.
You really could maybe start something around that. So look, it's one of the things that I built my brand around, expert in you. Everybody has something that they've done or accomplished. Build around that, but build in integrity.
Yeah.
And there's opportunity out there for all of that, but do it in integrity, not making things up.
100%. We're on the same page. Well, Ann, I really appreciate you coming on. I really enjoyed the conversation. You certainly are great at what you do, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about it. And everybody can find you where? AnnCarden.com, correct?
It's AnnLCarden.com. It does have my middle initial, AnnLCarden.com, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm all over the internet, so you can find me. Yeah,
that's true. You are, and AI picks you up, which is a feat.
Good to know. Good to see. Build that brand, build that influence. I call it your influence. So yes.
So
thank you.
All your contact information, all your social media, your link to your website, and all will be in the description of the show, it'll be on E360. I'll send you a link to it tomorrow, and then it also will be out in a bunch of different places, and then we'll do some marketing for it next week. And so keep your eye out for that. And I appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye. Thank you.